The universe. Everyone has their own ideas as to what secrets it holds. If a turtle doesn't have a shell, is it naked or homeless? Some would argue both. I disagree. Zeno had an interesting theory involving a turtle. A tortoise, actually, but there isn't much of a difference. You see, Zeno wanted to disagree with some math nerds who called themselves the Pythagoreans. They said that the world is an infinite series of points and numbers for everything and blah blah blah. One of the arguments he thought would disprove them was that if the world is a series of points and a tortoise raced Achilles but started first, the tortoise would win. The reasoning behind this is because the tortoise crossed points to get to where it is, and Achilles would have to cross every point to catch up with him. But since the tortoise is constantly moving, Achilles will never reach it. This is one of the most stupid arguments I've ever heard. Achilles doesn't have to cross every point that the tortoise crossed. If he did that, all he would be doing is just following the tortoise's footsteps. Achilles could run on the path beside the tortoise and cross more points than the tortoise did in less time. He's crossing the points faster than the tortoise would. This doesn't disprove the Pythagoreans, it just doesn't make sense. And then there's the arrow paradox. If you fire an arrow, it doesn't move. The reason he said this was because the definition of something not moving is that it occupies the amount of space it takes up. Well, that means nothing will ever move because everything is always occupying the amount of space it takes up. That's how things work. Otherwise, there wouldn't be anything there to take up the space. Come on. Most deep or philosophical questions can be answered easily. Zeno's paradoxes can anyway. The millet seed problem is stupid because even if you can't hear one drop, it still makes a sound. You just need special sound tools to hear them. So if people actually thought that these things would disprove the Pythagoreans, then they must be dumb. Most famous philosophers are just stupid, and people agree with them because they use big words and say sentences that don't really make sense. Socrates was ugly, Plato lied about the Republic being just and efficient, and Aristotle was sexist. All of the world's most famous philosophers are so problematic. Now, don't get the impression that I'm not problematic. I can have my moments too. But at least I'm not as bad as these guys. Machiavelli talks about lions and foxes, two animals that I love, and he says to respond to insults with brute force. Now, I completely agree with the idea of not backing down, but it really depends on the situation. Usually people are just being mean to be mean, and in that case, calling them out on their bad behavior is great. It causes them to get defensive and uncomfortable, which means they lost. In the end, I don't care about their opinion, so I win either way. My opinion on philosophers consequently makes me a philosopher. The people who say that philosophy is hard to understand are pretentious and insecure and just want you to think that they're smarter than you. Philosophy is actually really easy. Everyone who has an opinion on something is a philosopher. The universe is big and scary, so why should we make it even more complicated by looking for deeper meanings and secrets? If a turtle doesn't have a shell, it isn't a turtle, it's a lizard.